Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 289. Today we're going to talk about Rivet Wars Eastern Front. Now don't let the word Eastern Front fool you, because it's not really a World War II game. It's kind of an alternate, reality, alternate universe idea. They have the Blight faction and the Allied faction inside of this box, but it's more of a steampunk, I guess diesel punk would be the more correct term. And it's a battle game, a skirmish game, with fantastic models, I gotta say. But let's go ahead and talk about how the game works and what's going to come in the box, and then I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, I just want to give you a quick overview of all the components you get in the game. One of the nice things with Cool Mini or Not is they give you these plastic molds that you can store your models in, and they do a really nice job of keeping them safe and everything. You got different boards here. These are double-sided, so different terrain. You got some bunker tiles here. Some of these will be, let's see, objective points. These ones in the yellow, you can see they got the little star there. These are going to be points that you're going to try to control on the map. Now each side also has these awesome, super mech kind of looking things. So this one here for the Allied player is pretty cool. Now one thing that's neat about these is you actually can pop some of this stuff out, and you can put these plugins, these pluggable socketed items into these. So if I wanted, I could put in like this little gun turret here, which actually will spin around. Or I've also got like this leader guy here. I can put him in there, and you can see this is like a little character here sort of marching along. So that's a very interesting little mechanic that comes with the game. Now each player gets this sheet of cards that you can see what the different units are. So here you've got the Allied side here, or excuse me, no, this is the blighted side, and then on the other side here we have the Allied side there. So each player gets one of these, and you've also got cards themselves as well, so you can take a look and figure out what kind of stuff you want to add into your army. And there's also some different terrain. You've got mines and tank traps and barbed wire and stuff, and then also some different cards and things that you'll have during the game. So let me set up just a couple of boards and talk about how the game's going to work. So here we've got a couple of the terrain features. We've got a bunker here, as well as a bunker where that's a victory point marker, and then you have these little trenches here. Now the little infantry units get a little bonus to their speed when they're running through the trenches. Now the rule book itself here is pretty short, but it does come with, I think, 10 scenarios here in the back, and then you're just going to set up the game based on the picture there. There maybe will be some different special rules and things like that for the scenario, but for the most part you're going to do basically 5 steps in your turn. You're going to do a card phase, deployment, combat, and then movement after combat, and then a little bit of a wrap-up. So in the card phase, you can, if you want, you can discard one of your action cards, and then you can draw an action card. You have a hand limit of 3 action cards, and these do a couple of different things. You got some different text that you can do. It tells you when you can play it, start of the deployment phase, deploy 1 additional cavalry, that's what that little icon means. And then there's some little flavor text. You will have some deviation fire stuff that happens where maybe you'll flip the top card and then look and see where the thing actually lands. In this case, you pick the target hex where it was supposed to land, and then you just flipped it up to kind of randomly get a little bit of scatter fire. And then you can also draw secret mission cards, and these are ways of giving you extra bonus points. So you're going to have these. It says kill enemy unit using tank shock, and you get 1 victory point per enemy kill to a max of 3. Or you maybe will get another one here. Let's see, kill 3 infantry units in 1 turn. That'll give you 1 victory point. And as you can see here, you can mark the victory points here with these little tokens, like so. These are double-sided, so you can see which faction you are. The game also comes with these different little control markers, which you could use as well. And usually the different scenarios will say, hey, play until 6 points or 10 points or whatever it is. Now most of the time you're going to get victory points just for controlling these control points at the end of the turn, but you can also again sneak in extra points with these secret mission cards. So after the card phase, you have the deployment phase. And based on the scenario, you're going to generate a certain amount of quote-unquote money in the game. And you might also generate these rivet points. So what does that actually mean? Well, for example here, this Panzerfaust unit, he cost 1 money to put into play. So if the scenario says you generate 4 money or 6 money per turn, you can put out a certain amount of these. And then you've also got here like this big Sturpenizer, he costs 4 money, and also 3 rivets. You can see that, and this one costs 2 money. Now the rivets will actually last from turn to turn. So if you generate 1 rivet per turn, for example, you can mark that here. Any money that you generate per turn is just going to disappear, so basically just spend it. Now what you're trying to save your rivets for here is for getting your big daddies out there. So yeah, it's going to cost you 4 money, but you're not deploying this until your 3rd turn at the earliest. So deployment is going to be spending of these points and possibly rivet points to put units out onto the board. Now the scenarios will tell you various hexes that you can deploy to. They're usually on the far ends of the map, kind of depending on how the scenario is balanced. So you're going to put those out into any of your available deployment areas. And then you're actually going to do combat first. You do combat and then you do movement. So you're going to go through and activate each grid. Now grid is this larger area of 4 little squares inside. So I'd activate this grid first, and then he would do combat, possibly attacking this unit or this unit. I would do this grid. So I'd go through and do my whole turn. And then after I do combat for everybody, if there is anybody in range, then I can do movement and I can activate movement. Now some of these special units, like this one for example, allows you to do movement in combat, and other cards and action cards you can do to kind of break that. But you're always going to do combat first and then movement, which is very interesting and actually works pretty well. So let's take a look at the cards here. Now for argument's sake, let's say our ostrich here was going to attack these dragoons. These are called dragoons. We can take a look at our ostrich card, a couple of different things. Here's his movement allowance, so that's 2 grids per spot. You can see this is his armor type, which I'll explain more in a minute, and this is his health. You have these little rivet things here. It's kind of hard to see, but they're little red things you can like put in these little slots here, and they go in pretty well, unless I fat finger it. Oh, I got it that time. So you put those in, and most stuff can get killed in one shot, but some of these bigger units cost multiple hits to get in. You can see his range against ground and his range against air. There are no air units in this base set, but I played this with my son. I'll talk about more of that in the review. We're like, air units? Holy cow, we can't wait for that. So you got this here. You have its attack. Now you also have some special abilities and things that maybe you will do instead of attacking. So basically what you're doing is you're doing the attack described here, and then you look at the armor type. So we're going to attack the dragoons here. So we can say here's his armor type. That's the little 2-pip thing. So we take a look at ostrich and say, okay, what do you do on the 2 pips? Okay, so you roll 2 dice, and this is the number of attempts that you get. Or if we look at this unit up here, we look at the card here, I don't know how to pronounce this, is MG08 Schlittlen. He actually gets 3 attempts. So if he were to attack these units here, because these are the 1-pip units, we'd take a look there and say, okay, there's that. We get 2 dice, but we get to attempt it 3 times into that location there. Now what you do when you attack, very simply, you roll whatever amount of dice, and then a 5 or a 6 counts as a hit. Now if you roll multiple 5s or 6s, that's not multiple hits, it's just you need to hit at least one of those 5s or 6s, and then you get your hit. So for example, this guy here, you can see he's not so great at basically attacking anything except for infantry, but he gets several attacks in a turn. So that's one thing that's really cool about the game that me and my son discovered actually was, proximity of units to other units based on what they can and can't hit or what they have a better chance of hitting is pretty much a lot of the game at this point. Some other things here, like I said, there's special abilities. This one will let you sort of chain attack. So if, let's say the dragoons here, they attacked here, and you can see they would get 1 attack and they get 2 dice. But if you get a hit, then you get another hit. And this one with this little double icon here basically means you get to keep firing if you get to hit the guys. And again, after you do combat, then you do some movement, and you're going to play action cards and secret objectives. And it's very simple and straightforward. So let's go back to the review. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. My son and I have had a blast with this. It's really a fun game. It's almost too simple in a lot of ways, and it also is it sits in this weird spot for us. So to me, it's got a lot of similar war game mechanics. Very simple movement and combat and range and the different unit types and how they interact. But it's got this real just heavy dose of Ameritrash on top of it. And I mean that in the best way possible. Because you have the little secret mission cards, you've got those surprise action cards, and it just throws in and mixes things up. Because the game really simply is, figure out which units you want to get closer away from your other guy that's going to, basically is targeted to kill them, which is very interesting because a lot of these games aren't so drastically like this guy kills infantry and nothing else. They kind of do. In most games where it's kind of balanced a little bit, and you just, with war games anyway. But this is really neat because you've got to really consider which unit types and look at what hits them and what they hit. And the terrain though is very simple, so it's not enough so much for my son, for example, who's not like a war gamer at all, that he can take in. He very much easy to understand the terrain. I mean, it's simpler even than like a Memoir 44, which he also enjoys. But it's really just kind of straightforward and simple. Combat, move, done. And then you throw an action card out or not, or you have the secret objectives or not. And so it's almost like a dudes on the map style game in that very Ameritrash sense of just, let's just sit down, slaughter each other, have a bunch of fun. But it has some real basic principled kind of war game mechanics underneath that, which is pretty cool. So we really enjoyed the game. The models look great, and I love this kind of engine that's happening, because most war games you set everything out and that's it, and then you have your scenario. Well, this is like, well, you can bring in the big wheel units, or you can tech up and wait to bring in your huge tank, or you can build and just run a rush of infantry and infantry one after another. So you can adapt and change to how the war is being fought and what secret mission cards you get. So it's cool. It's got some historical slightly feel to it, because it's kind of Axis and Allies, but this is Blight and Allies, and it's Diesel Punk or whatever you want to call it. So it's got a lot going on. I think could be a good war game. It really reminds me of HeroScape, and that's what my son said, and I agreed with him, and he really liked that, because you had the different kind of units that you could buy, in this case during the game, and really change your strategy, and the models look really, really good. So yeah, I think this is, if you've got a younger kid, this is totally a good introductory war game. Or even if it's not a kid, I mean, I had a lot of fun playing it too. And it'll be interesting to see what units they come out with, because you've got the whole socketed thing, that's really cool. I really like that, because you've got one unit, but it's like, oh, we're going to spring in like a machine gun or the leader or something like that. So it's a really good, solid system. I think that, there's a lot in the box too. Actually, just to give you a little insight there, the first couple times we played, I was like, this is cool, but I kind of want more. But as we started playing more of the scenarios and getting kind of used to the action cards and the special objective cards, then we were like, okay, this is cool. I mean, there's a lot in here. We could be happy with this for some time. Because some of the first scenarios, they tell you not to use the cards and stuff. But then we kind of progressed on to some of the other ones. So really, really cool game. And I would definitely take a look at it for sure. Thanks.